These times are strange, it's quite surreal. It's never been like this. Remembering the good old days when we could hug and kiss. We'd pack the gyms and restaurants and move to public settings. We'd give high fives and drink at dives, hold hands and dance at weddings. Now the days are longer, yet the darker in a way. We're pressing pause on normalcy, just going day by day. But we can still make jokes and art, garden, dance and sing. Cook, read books, try on fun looks and learn about new things. We can talk with friends of ours and have a heart to heart, just so long as we all stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you, 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical, so step aside, let's live.
Welcome to Sunday Night Stories, a production of 6 Feet Apart Productions. 6 Feet Apart Productions is a little production company that Claire Hennessy and Regina Stoops put together, and I helped them get it up and running. And now that the real work is starting, I'm slipping out and letting them take it from here because I'm doing a free YouTube web series on public speaking. Yeah, if I could spit it out, that's what I'm going to do. And so we want to welcome you here tonight. This is an attempt on our part to bring the joy and the excitement of live storytelling into your living room from our living rooms. And it's a real formidable proposition because what makes storytelling what it is in a theater is the interaction between the audience and the performers. And there's a certain synergy that carries the entire show and gives it a sort of balance. So if you're sitting at, let's say, Freight and Salvage, a theater in Berkeley, and you're at a Moth performance, and you're all crunched in tight together. Remember when we used to crunch in tight together? And you get to a story that's sort of uneven, or it's not really your cup of tea, or you're not that interested, you are not going to like slip out, like go down the entire row of people and pretend like you have to go to the bathroom to get out of listening to the story, because by the time you get to the end of the row, the story's done. They're only 5 minutes long. But in a live performance, what happens is the overall energy between the audience and the performers, they carry those rough spots. But we're in a situation where each person is performing in sort of a vacuum and not really knowing who's on the other side or what your reaction is. So we're going to ask you as audience members to really try to create a theater experience for yourself at home so that you're creating conditions to receive these stories. What that would mean is, well, like at Freight and Salvage, okay? You would not wear like loose clothing and have your hands exploring places like you do at home. You're not going to do that at Freight and Salvage. You're going to sort of get a little spruced up. You're going to get yourself a beverage. And listen, I heard about all the alcohol sales out there and all the pot sales. I know that you all have beverages. So grab yourself a beverage or whatever you use to relax, come back, turn off the lights, maybe even turn off your phone, and really try to be here for this performance the same way that we're here for you. Now, I have to talk about this thing, and I don't want to. I hate to have to bring up like this little housekeeping issue, but apparently in Zoom meetings like this one, there is porn bombing going on. That's like during the meeting, all of a sudden you see a pornographic image or you see a little clip from, a porn. And all I have to say about that is it's so disgusting because we've been putting our heart and soul into this for 3 weeks, y'all. And we have not been porn bombed once. I'm not kidding, not once. And I don't know if like the porn hackers in their ivory towers think that, simple storytellers in California don't want to be exposed to a little porn. I wouldn't mind a little porn. Now, I don't like porn necessarily because it's so rarely done well. Um, so it's not necessarily porn, but for me, it's sort of a nostalgic thing. It's sort of, I don't know, like remembering my childhood in a way, which I know that sounds a little strange, but if you know me, if you're a friend, or if you've ever been to my stage show, or if you've ever stood next to me in line at Safeway, you know that my father was the porn king of San Francisco back in the 60s, the original porn pioneer. And forget like Tiger King, Porn King. I want to see a 7 episode Netflix series on my father because it really was quite something. He came to this country, tried to make his way here, worked as a waiter and a busboy, real hustler though, and he always gambled. And he won a dirty bookstore and a card game. And then he parlayed that into a strip club, and then that into theaters, little porno theaters, Tomcat, Kitty Cat. Oh, I just realized, just like Tiger King, very tied into the cats, Kitty Cat, Pussy Cat, Tomcat. And so in my childhood, with my 3 older brothers and my younger sister, we were all children of the porn. Um, okay, all right. So I know that was funny, but you're just laughing too hard. Just calm down. Really, don't embarrass yourself. I know it was funny though, children of the porn. That was our childhood. So let me see what else I want to tell you. I think that's really it. We have excellent, excellent storytellers tonight. We've got 2 Moth Grand Slam champions that are going to be storytelling tonight. And our first storyteller has started her own true story show in Oakland, Story Slam Oakland. And she also does 2 other shows, Spontaneous Storytelling. And she is just a magnificent person. And I read something else in her bio. Oh, she teaches workshops. Oh, and she throws potluck storytelling dinners. Um, Storytelling dinners. Maybe after she does her story, she could explain why I've never been invited to one of these dinners. But as I'm saying that, I realize I've just met Julie. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a very warm Sunday Night Stories welcome to Julie Solar.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was awesome. What a great intro. All right, well, I'll just start. A few years ago, I was really into weed, smoking it, growing it, and selling it to my friends. And then I got greedy. I thought, how can I make more money at this? And I thought, I know, I'll bake brownies and sell them, put pictures of them on Instagram. So I got a whole lot of customers from my Instagram page, and 99% of them were great. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's kind of stupid to try to sell weed things to people you don't know, but I had video cameras installed all over the house, so at least I could see the people approach. And if I didn't know them, I'd meet them on the corner a few times, and then once I met them on the corner a few times, I was like, I know you, come on down to the house. So one day, this kid named Omari texts me and says that he wants to pick up $50 worth of weed. And I tell him, okay, well, I'm not going to be home, but I'll leave the weed for you in the mailbox and you can leave the money there. And so he does. Well, I mean, he picks up the weed because the mailbox is empty, but he hasn't left any money. And when I check the video feed the next day, I can see that it's clearly him picking up the weed and not leaving any money. And I'm like, I thought that if I treat everyone with respect, then everyone will treat me with respect. But I realize that as a drug dealer, it doesn't always work that way. And so I text him. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? You owe me $50. Are you just going to stiff me? No response. Well, a couple days later, he does text me saying he didn't have the money on him at the moment, but now he has it and can he bring it? And I'm like, sure, come this morning. So an hour later, he comes trudging up the walk with a friend, a short, chubby little guy that I recognize has come to pick up weed before with him, kind of like a baby-faced kid. So I notice that the baby-faced kid is wearing a hoodie with the hood pulled down low over his eyes, a backpack, and gloves. And it doesn't really register why he would be dressed this way on a warm spring day. And Omari comes up the steps, pulling cash out of his pocket. And I say, don't let's not do the deal right here in front of the house. Come on into the house. And I bring them both into the kitchen where I keep the weed in big jars in the cabinet. And then Omari pulls out a gun and puts it to my head and asks, where is the money? And I realize everything has changed. I thought I was in that 70s show, but I'm in The Wire. And so I go into the closet where I keep the money in a pink makeup bag to hide it from the cleaning ladies, and I give him the pink makeup bag. Meanwhile, his little chubby baby-faced friend has grabbed 2 big jars of weed from the kitchen cabinet and run out the front door. And Omari takes the pink makeup bag full of money and runs out the front door. And then I run out the front door after them. And I have to let you know that I have recently recovered from a broken leg. So I'm sort of limp running down the hill, around the corner, looking to see which way they've gone. And I see parked at the stop sign on the corner, there's a lady in a car with a black bandana around her forehead. And she has seen the whole thing. And she calls out to me, "Hey, is everything okay?" And I say, "No, I've just been robbed. Come on." And I get around to the passenger side of her car and I get in. And then she has seen the boys run up the hill. So she guns the engine, turns a hard left and drives up the hill after them, almost up onto the sidewalk, screeches to a halt and calls out, "That's a wrap. It's over." And the 2 boys approach the car and give me back the pink makeup bag full of money and the 2 jars of weed. And I can't believe this has just happened. I'm just flabbergasted, but I'm also scared because I left the house wide open and I say, "Please drive me back to my house." And she does. And on the way, she's explaining that she's an Uber driver, which is probably why she wasn't totally freaked out when I jumped in her car. And that normally she's in the city at this time of the morning, but she has urinary incontinence and she had to come home to change her pants. And sure enough, she's sitting on a black plastic bag. Well, I get out of the car and I open the pink makeup bag and I see that it's still full of all the money. So I give her $200 and I go back in the house and I'm kind of shaking and scared because I don't know if the boys are going to, come back. I don't know what they're going to do. And then I check the video camera security footage and I see that I've caught it all on camera. I see both boys and Omari running out of the house, and you can even see his gun. And I'm like, aha, I have them. I even have his phone number. And so I start posting all over Instagram snapshots from the video camera footage saying, "These boys tried to rob me today. Does anybody know who they are?" And people start flooding my account with messages of support saying, "You should call the cops on them. If you do the crime, you got to do the time." And then Omari texts me and begs me not to call the cops on him, that he just needed the money for college. And I'm thinking, do I call the cops on him? Do I not call the cops on him? I mean, he put a gun to my head. That's a felony. But he didn't hurt me, and I got all the money back, and I was selling weed to kids, and that's a felony. So in the end, I don't call the cops on anybody, and I take down my Instagram page, and I never sell weed again to kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. That was fantastic. And I think that we are off to an incredible start because we've already covered pornography and drugs. And I cannot wait to see what this next storyteller has in store for us. She is the sweetest woman. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her besides what's on her bio. Well, let me tell you what's on her bio because she's such a busy woman and has so many things going on. I don't want to miss any of this. She's been telling ever since she learned to talk. She got her professional start as a storytelling witch at the library where she still works and branched out into professional stories, which she's told at the Moth and other venues. Check out her work on YouTube, catch her book review and blog on the Marin County Library website, and tune into her bi-weekly radio show on kwmr.org called Reading to John. See why I had to read it? I don't want you to miss any of that. And Neshama, what I want to tell you about her is that the Moth, which is this incredible storytelling organization that I fell in love with about a year and a half ago, I heard about it and I went to a Moth And it's sort of intimidating going into a theater where you can tell all the old time storytellers all know each other. And hey, you gonna tell a story tonight? Yeah, you, yeah. And you feel like an outsider. And Neshama is the one in her well dressed, incredibly beautifully put together look, like she always has, came to me and said, "Can I help you? What do you need? Are you going to tell a story?" Just reaching out in a way that nobody ever has to, but she did, always showing such kindness. And it's my great joy to present her tonight, telling a story, an original true story. Give it up, Neshama Franklin.
So I couldn't believe that it was only, a month ago, a little more. I was getting on a plane to go to Mexico March 10th. My daughter said, don't go because this stuff was starting to happen. And in my heart of hearts, I didn't want to go either. Why wouldn't I want to go to a tropical island? Because I love my life. It's like a mosaic of joys. I love going to the library and working in the river of books that I consume omnivorously. And I love my Pilates class. And I love doing my blog. And I love doing my radio show. And I love going to the gym. And I love walking. It's exhausting, but it isn't, because it fills me with joy. Now, my sister, who's a retired therapist, said, Neshama, it's too much. You get up at 5 a.m. I'm a lark. And sometimes you don't get home till 9:45 at night. What are you going to give up? And I said, nothing. I'm not going to give up anything. I love it all. But there I was on my way to Mexico because I'm a good girl. I had paid the money, and I was going to go for something that would help me. So where were we going in Mexico? Yalapa. Doesn't that sound exotic? We had been there for 6 years. And who's this we? It's my friend and I. She's a fabulous Tai Chi teacher. I forgot, how could I have left that out of my long stream of joys? Because I do Tai Chi every single morning. But you should know, when you do when you practice the form, as we say, it may look kind of all gentle and flowing and almost improvised, but it's very specific. And if you don't get it right, the medicine, the chi, does not flow properly. And so here she is giving a week-long workshop so we can shape up our forms. And there we are on the plane, landing in Puerto Vallarta, which is pretty frenetic. But then we get on a boat, a water taxi, which sounds elegant, but it's just all the way across the Bay of Banderas to a beautiful little cove and to a little fishing village. They got electricity 13 years ago. There's no road. There are donkeys, there are mules, there are horses, there are ATVs, but what can you do? I mean, the people deserve to roar around if they want to. And there I was in Mexico without most of my props. I mean, yes, I had my Tai Chi. Yes, I had a suitcase full of books and a Kindle, but in case the Kindle failed, which indeed it did, I had the books to read. But the thing about Mexico is it has its own open rhythm. And so the only thing that was scheduled was this 10 to 12 boot camp doing Tai Chi, and the rest of it was just free float. And there'd be a breakfast, and then we'd do some Tai Chi, and then we'd eat a little guacamole, and then I'd read a book, and then I'd go down to the beach, and I'd swim in this delicious water. The waves weren't too big, a little when you get in, and then it just feels like your body is being surrounded by joy, and you're bobbing in a kind of celestial stew pot filled with other people, and we're all chatting, and then nothing else. Except, maybe once in a while we'd go down the lumpy, bumpy path to the village, 15 minutes, and have a celebratory dinner. And so thus it went on. And I started to really relax, which is pretty unusual for me, except I know this is what happens in Mexico. But, we weren't cut off from what was going on here. And we had email, and we had Facebook, and we had texting. And my daughter finally texted me, and she said, I had 3 more days to go. She said, they're going to close the border, and I got you a ticket, and you have to come home. And this time I listened to my daughter, and I got on a plane, and I flew back to San Francisco Airport, and she picked me up with a cooler full of delicious food and got me to the airport, and I got home in the dark of night to a world turned absolutely upside down because I was in self-seclusion, and all those things that I thought I was were not available. And so, wow, the pause, the breath, the surprises that came whap, 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 as I settled into what had set me up in Mexico with this cool, calm, open rhythm. Now, I have to tell you that, I when I did this story, when I practiced it, I ended with just joyous gratitude. But we're human. That's not us. I had a kind of saggy day a couple of days ago. The great balloon of hope kind of started to soften, but I know it'll fill up. I mean, that's the way we go. And you should also know that my nature abhors a vacuum, and into it has come Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, and I'm kind of working online, and I'm still doing my radio show from home, and I'm still doing my blog. I'm walking like 3 hours a day. I am still a busy woman, but I'll say it with the pissiness that enters into all of our lives. I'm so grateful for this bizarre opportunity. And I say this too shall pass, but let's hope we don't pass with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Neshama. Thank you. What did I tell you? And I'm not sure if I mentioned in her introduction that Neshama is a Moth Grand Slam winner. And it takes a little bit to become a Moth Grand Slam winner. So sorry if I forgot to mention that, Neshama, and we're so honored to have you with us tonight. Our next speaker is a Grand Slam winner too. In fact, I recently lost to him at the Grand Slam, and I'm not resentful at all. Anyway, so I'm very, very excited. He is a delightful and beautiful storyteller. He's been telling stories all over the country, much to the benefit of audiences everywhere. And he's a wonderful person to boot. I think he's a technical writer too. And he's just a wonderful man. Please welcome with me and give a warm Sunday Night Stories welcome to Hari Sanghvi.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you so much. So when I was in my 30s, I wanted to travel the world, but let's face it, it's expensive. So I would always end up doing those group tours. But the problem with group tours is you can't really stray off and do the things that you want to do. Once I went to the Grand Canyon and I really wanted to ride those mules, but we were required to spend a lot of time walking along the glass bottom, the glass bridge, and also seeing the talented Native American dancers. And once I booked a snorkeling tour to Florida, where I wanted to just swim out and swim with the dolphins, but we were required to stay in the lagoon with the tropical fish. Just once in my life, I wanted to customize a trip for just 3 people, me, myself, and I. One day I was watching the 1980s movie Clan of the Cave Bear, starring Daryl Hannah, and it showed these gorgeous prehistoric cave paintings from the Lascaux cave in France. And I thought, how cool would it be to go to France and see 30,000-year-old cave paintings in real life? And I do some research and I find out that they have private tours where somebody could pick you up and take you anywhere you want to go. So I save up for 3 months and I book this trip to go to the Dordogne region in southwest France, which is known for 3 things: prehistoric caves, medieval castles, and gastronomy or wine tasting tours. And I tell my tour guide, I only want to see the prehistoric caves, nothing else, nothing else. So I finally arrive in France and I am so excited to be met by my tour guide. And she tells me, well, which caves do you want to see? And I roll out my Santa's wish lists And she laughs and says, well, you're forgetting about one cave. You're forgetting about the Bernafol cave in France. What is that? And she goes on to tell me there is a cave in France, which is the only cave in the entire world with a prehistoric painting of a dinosaur. And she shows me this picture of this painting, and it actually, I guess it could look like a dinosaur, but to me it kind of looked like a pregnant earless rabbit. But okay, I said, if you want to see it, fine, I really don't care. So then I go to my hotel and I get a nice night's sleep until I am awoken by a frantic call from my booking agent. And she tells me that there's this problem, that another tour guide got sick. And there's four people, a family, a couple, and their two kids, and they need to join some tour because they don't have their tour guide. And she asks if they can join my tour. And my first thought, WTF. And my second thought is, I know what's going to happen. They're going to come on my tour and we're going to have to end up doing things I don't want to do. But my third thought, WTF. If I say no, you can't join my tour, how selfish or rude would I look? So reluctantly, I say they can join my tour. And the next day, my tour begins and the tomfoolery also begins. So we're on the way to see these caves. And the couple says, well, we heard of these medieval castles. And my tour guide says, yes. And we go to this medieval market in a town called Sarlat, where this couple samples 30 different types of artisan cheeses very, very slowly. And it's taking away from the time from my seeing the caves. And then they sample the truffles. Now, not even the cool chocolate truffles. I'm talking about the mushroom truffles. And then they say, well, we heard that there's foie gras. And my tour guide said, oh, yes, it's 30 miles that way. And away from the caves, there's a goose farm. Now, I know already I'm being joined by a flock of people. I guess I'm going to have to see flock of geese also. So how can I have to do something. How can I stop this? This is my tour guide. This is my tour. So I get this idea that I can do this thing. And I go to the little 12-year-old girl who's the daughter of the couple. And I say, hey, little girl, do you know where we could all go? No, where? Well, we could go to this prehistoric cave. And you know what's in this prehistoric cave? No, what? A painting of a dinosaur. No, really, really. And so everyone gets excited. And we turn around and we go see these prehistoric caves. And I get to see every cave that I've ever wanted to see. And I finally make it to Bernafol. And I'm looking at this earless pregnant rabbit. And it's the most beautiful dinosaur I have ever seen because it saved my tour. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. And excuse me, our next speaker is a Bay Area comedian and an actor. He said that he believes that we are all a collage of all the important people in our lives, which set me into a nervous breakdown. But anyway, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Gary. I haven't stopped thinking about it since you said it. He's a delightful storyteller. We're so lucky to have him here tonight. Please give a warm welcome to Gary Hughes.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Um, when I was 20, I went to go live in Brussels, Belgium with my aunt. I lived with her family. Now, it was my first time out of California, my first time out of the country, my first time on an airplane. I was super excited. It was a very fun time. I remember getting off the flight in Brussels, and the lady asked me, she said, how long are you here for? I was like, 6 months. And she's like, you're going to need a visa. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Just let me through the gate. Like, I just flown for 18 hours. I'm just ready to go through the gate. I'm excited. I'm buying stuff like Twix, but the candy wrapper is written in French instead of English. I thought that was so amazing. Just doing silly stuff. I was just amazed. Anyway, I decided to go to the UK, the United Kingdom, of course. That's the original American birthplace. And I remember going for the second time. I was 5 months in, right? I was 5 months in, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Berlin. Then I head over there. Now, in Germany, Berlin, they have a very sad history. So I was kind of excited to leave there. I was like, yes, I'm going to go to the UK. It's going to be great. Buckingham Palace. Woo! And I remember going to the airport. I was late for my flight, going to the airport. I was kind of rushing, and the guards stopped me in Germany, and they were looking at my stamp. They were looking at my passport, and I found out that some countries, if you're there for 3 months or longer, you need a visa, right? And I was there for 5 months, but they looked at the wrong stamp. Looking back in retrospect, I realized that, and they were like, "Oh, you're a few weeks over, no problem. Just sign these papers, and you'll be on your way. Show these papers when you get to the UK." And I was like, "Great, great, great. I gotta go. My flight. I'm late." I get on the flight. I'm excited. I land in the UK. Then I go to the gate. They pull me to the side. I show them the papers. Like, no problem. Then the person with blue gloves comes, and I was like, "Oh, come on, what's going on?" Then they dig all through my bag and they take me down to like this dungeon. It was like it was like a tea party furniture for adults. Everything was plastic. They had different Bibles and prayer mats for whatever religion you were. They had different movies, DVD movies. I watched Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. I watched Big with Tom Hanks. I was just sitting there. Little did I know I'd be there for 8 hours. That's a whole working shift. I remember calling my grandmother when I was there. I said, "Granny, I'm being deported." I don't think she understood what it meant. She just said, "Come home." I was like, "That's okay. I'm being deported. I'm gonna just go." No, 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 no. Come home. I was like, "Okay, thanks, Granny." So that was a waste of my call, right? And I just sat there, and every 2 hours they were interviewing me, and I'm thinking they kind of giving me hope. They're like, "Hey, what you here for?" I'm like, "Oh, touristy stuff, blah blah blah." Okay, go back down. Another 2 hours, come back up. "You sure you're here for touristy stuff?" "Yeah, that's exactly it." Go back down 2 hours. "We're not gonna let you in." I was like, "Okay," and they just kept me down there for 2 more hours, 8 hours, and they sent me on a flight back to Berlin, right? And they send you on like the first class flight. I put first class because if you've ever flown Ryanair or Southwest, first class just means in the front of the plane. There's no curtain to divide you. You're just right behind the cockpit. And I remember flying back and I met some women that were from the US and they were so soothing because I was like, they were like, "Where are you traveling from?" They thought I was paying big bucks. It's like, "No, I'm being deported as we speak right now." And they were so soothing. I was just a kid, man. I needed that. So I get to Berlin again, and then their guards don't want to let me through. And now I'm feeling like a redheaded stepchild. I'm like, yo, somebody has to let me in their country. All right. We've done too much in the US. Okay. And so they finally let me through. They let me through. It's like 12 midnight. No flights are going out. So I ended up meeting this young lady. She was waiting for flights in the morning. And we just watched each other bags while we went to the bathroom until 7 o'clock. First flight to Brussels. I catch it. I go there. I get back to my aunt's house. Now, during the whole 5 months of my stay, my aunt asked me, she told me, she kept telling me, get a visa, get a visa. But I was hard headed. So I get back in the house early and she's working and she's like, "Wow, short trip?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just got deported." She said, "Ha!" And I was like, "Her, I told you so." Now, you're probably asking yourself, so you're probably asking me, "Hey, Gary, what does a passport look like when you're deported? Is it like a big skull and bones and nothing?" Nah, it's just a stamp with a pin through it. That's all. That's all it looks like. It's very simple. And since then, I have not been to the United Kingdom. Thank you very much, United Kingdom. And thank you, you guys. All right. I appreciate it. Blessings. Take care of yourselves.
Barry. Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Excuse me for 1 second. We had received some texts that people are having a hard time hearing and there have been sound issues. If you've noticed that, will you make a little comment on the YouTube channel or get in touch with us and let us know? Because we want to create as excellent of a show as we can, have as high quality as we can. So sorry if there were any sound issues tonight. I'm pretty sure that if there were issues, it was this next storyteller's fault. I pretty much blame everything on her. I've known her for almost 30 years now. And many, many years ago, I was in a little dive bar in Walnut Creek doing stand up material. And this next storyteller was at the same bar doing stand up material. And literally, not one person in the entire bar was listening to either one of us. I was the only one sitting in the audience when she performed, and she was the only one sitting in the audience when I performed, and we cracked each other up, and we've been beautiful friends ever since. And we have a stage show that we do together called the Better Than Therapy Tour. She is an incredible person. You can find out more about her on her website, reginastoops.com. She has a beautiful blog. And by the way, she was interested in this moth storytelling thing I was doing, and she asked to come along to a moth event. And so I brought her along to Freight and Salvage in Berkeley, and Regina threw her name in the hat and won her first ever story slam. So, and I'm not resentful about that either. Not at all. How petty do you think I am? Anyway, very, very thrilled to introduce you to my friend, a beautiful performer, and a wonderful storyteller, Regina Stoops.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Sorry about that moth thing. Yeah. Um, I'm 11 years old and I am bored. I'm so bored. It's a Midwestern small town that I grew up in. It's the summertime and I'm bored. There's only 4 channels on TV, okay, and there's no internet. So I did what every other kid did in the neighborhood, and that was you went outside and you wandered around until you found some other bored kids, and then you could form a group of bored kids because we all knew that a group of bored kids was much better than the singular bored kid. So on this particular day, I got on my bike and I rode down the hill to the elementary school where we all tended to congregate. I don't know why it really wasn't that exciting of a playground. It was pretty much, a jumble of monochromatic metal that was over a black asphalt surface that in the Midwestern sun became slightly soft and sticky. But there we were, we'd ride our bikes around. And I think that if you get a group of bored kids together, eventually they're going to find something to do. And most likely it's going to be something that's just a little bit devious. This day was no different. One of the gang, I can't remember who it was. It could have been Randy, could have been Scott, could have been Mark, might have been Mark. Anyway, whoever it was discovered a flaw in the design of the school. Whoever it was, Mark, Scott, Randy, they had a better grasp of physics, geometry, and I guess architecture because they figured out that there was a pole that was just slightly too close to the school. And you could put one hand on the wall, one hand on the pole, and you could shimmy your way up to the roof. You could get on the roof. The roof. This changed everything. This could alleviate our boredom for like the next 6 weeks until school started. So little by little, kids started to go up onto the roof. And word got out around the neighborhood. I don't know how. There's no cell phones, but somehow telepathy, all bored kids gathered at the playground. And I sat on my bike and I watched those kids. And man, I wanted to be up there. I wanted to be up there so bad. But I'm a careful kid. I'm a rule follower. And so I just watch. But eventually I can't take it anymore. I reached the tipping point of my boredom. I was tired of being a bystander. I was going to get up on that roof. So I got off my bike and I laid it down very slowly because I'm a very careful kid. And I went over there and I put one hand on the wall and I put the other hand on the pole and I put a foot on the wall and a foot on the pole and I started to work my way up. Now, it was a lot harder than it looked, okay? And it was also a lot more dangerous because if you were to slip, the brick on this side would just shred your arm and the pole on the other side would just impale you with splinters. But I worked my way up till I made it to the top and hoisted myself over the parapet. And there I was. I had done it. I had made it to the top of the school. Oh my gosh. I looked out. I gazed upon the world. I could see the playground. I could see the creek behind the playground. I could see the hill. I could see all the way up to my house. I looked at those kids down below on the playground, the ones who weren't as daring as I. as if to say, oh, minions, gaze upon me. I am your rooftop queen. I, along with the other brave kids, went around and explored the rooftop, which this school was kind of built in a very haphazard way, I guess, because they would add an addition here, an addition there. And every time they did, it would be a slightly different rooftop elevation. I don't know why. So the whole thing had kind of feel of a rooftop steeplechase. So you'd go up and down and through tar and gravel. But eventually we worked our way over to the other side of the school, where we gazed upon that side of the world. And as we were gazing upon that side of the world, we realized that the school janitor was now gazing up at us. He looked up, he froze, we froze, he yelled, hey, you kids! And we took off running for the other side of the school, up, down, around, over, through, until we got to our entry point. Only we realized, as we all got there, there was no way that we could get off the school the way that we'd gotten on. It would take too long for all of us to try to shimmy down. And like the Titanic, some of us were not going to make it off that ship. So we ran over to the oldest part of the school and the lowest roof elevation, and we just leapt off of the roof into the grass below, like lemmings off the cliff. And then we ran over to our bikes, and we got on our bikes, and the janitor runs around the corner, runs up to us, and stops. And my heart is beating. I know that I have guilt, and it's just oozing out of my pores. I mean, I might as well just say, I was on the roof, take me to jail now. So we all stand there, and the janitor looks at each one of us slowly. And then he says, hey, did you guys happen to see some kids that were up on the roof just now? Stunned, silent. We looked at each other, all thinking the same thing. Could he really possibly not know that we were those kids that were on the roof? Is it possible we could be that lucky? Finally, one of our group had the good sense to say, yeah, totally. Yeah, we saw them. We saw those kids, and they went around the corner that way. Well, the janitor takes off after those kids. I take off for home, my heart pounding in my chest. I had done it. I wasn't going to go to kid jail. I never got up on the roof again. The fear was not worth the victory. But to this day, I can say I was part of the great Oakdale Elementary School rooftop escape. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, so sorry about that. A little technical difficulty. This is what you were supposed to have heard directly after Regina. We're getting used to all the technology. Anyway, we're so thrilled that you joined us tonight. I'd like to thank each of our storytellers tonight. Thank them for coming out and sharing their gifts with us. First of all, speaker Julie Sola. Julie, thank you. And Neshama Franklin.
Thank you.
And Harry Sanghvi.
Have a great night.
Gary Hughes.
Take care of yourselves. Thank you.
And my pal, Regina Stoops.
Thank you. Thank you for dropping in.
Thank you very much, everybody. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Thank
you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.